All right, I got this question here. The graph of a quadratic function f is shown on the grid. So we have this graph of quadratic function, a parabola goes up here. Which of these best represents the domain of f? All right, the domain of f. All right. Well, well, first of all, the domain of any function or graph is the complete set of possible values of the independent variable, which is x. So in other words, the domain is a set of all possible x values will make the function or any graph exist, right? When we talk about the domain, we have to look for the values of x. What are the values of x will make this graph exist, right? Well, we can see the arrow. The graph, it starts from nowhere, from the left side, which is negative infinity, right? We have the arrow on the left side right here, right? And also it's go all the way down, then it's gonna go up, and there is another arrow here. Now this arrow represents infinity, right? Infinite, like from negative infinite all the way to positive infinite. So all the values of x, right, that's represented by this graph, it's between the negative infinity all the way to positive infinity, right? That's the value. So the answer is going to be G, which is all real numbers. Now let me give you like you know another explanation to this. Let's suppose I have a graph like this. Let's suppose the graph is stopped here, right? Let's suppose I don't have this. I don't have this, okay? And it stops right here, and I don't have this arrow, okay? This is the graph that I have, right? If I have this case, the answer is going to be F right here, right? Because look at here. This where the graph starts. Let's suppose I have this graph right here. It starts from this point, right? Which is when x is negative 3, y is 6, right? And also it ends at this point, right? What is the value? What is the value of x at this point, right? It's gonna be 2 and 6. So as you can see, if I want to know the domain, which is the value of x, according to this, my new graph here, is going to start from the negative 3 all the way to 2. So x will be between negative 3 all the way to 2. That's a domain if I have this one. That's why they want to give you f to confuse you here. So, but I don't have this one. I have this. I have this one here. That's what I have, right? So I have this graph, which is from negative infinity all the way to positive infinity, right? So that's the difference. As you can see, H, if you want to analyze all the answers here, look at this. I got H, I got H here, right? I got a Y greater than 5.5. Now, we talked about Y if they ask us about the range. Like let's suppose I change the question. Let's suppose I have what is the range of this graph. If I want to see the range, you need to see what is where the graph starts in terms of y, right? So the y-axis it starts from here, which is negative 5.5, negative 5.5. So if I want to know the range, right, it's going to be like y greater or equals to negative 5.5. Well, actually, even here, they ask you about like y greater than 5.5. Even if they ask you about the range, h is not going to be the correct answer, right? So that's called the range. That's called the range right here. Right? That's called the range. Okay? Again, when they ask you about the domain, you look for x. When they ask you about the range, you look for y. In this question, they ask us about the domain. We're going to look for x, and the answer is going to be g, which is start from negative infinity all the way to positive infinity. All right, so I got this question here. The graph of a quadratic function is shown on the grid here. Which coordinate best represent the vertex of the graph? The vertex of the graph. Now, well, the vertex is the peak in the curve, right? And the peak will be either like downwards or upwards, depending on the sign of x squared. In this graph, we have parabola goes up, so it's going to be like the downwards right here, all the way to the lowest point in the graph, right? Now, as you can see, that's the peak where the curve, like changing direction here, right? Like, it's going all the way down and it's going to go up. So in this case, it's going to be the lowest point in this graph. As you can see, the coordinate of this point, right? The points are represented by x and y. So x for this point is 1, as you can see, that's 1 right here. And y, corresponding y, is going to be negative 2. So that's going to be the vertex, right? The vertex is going to be negative 1 and 2. In this case, 1 and negative 2. So the answer is going to be J. The answer is going to be J. All right, so I got this question. Which value of x makes the equation 0.75 times x plus 20 equals 2 plus 0.5 parentheses x minus 2 true, right? Well, let's try to solve for x, right? When you have this question here, you have 4 answers. Well, you have 2 choices here. You can either plug all those points, all those answers, and it may take a little bit more time, or you can solve for x, right? Well, let's take, let's try to use traditional answer. Let's try to solve for x. We should know how to solve for x anyway, right? Or, let's suppose you get confused here. You can just take 64 and replace it here. Replace x by 64, and let's see whether this, the one on the left will be equal the one on the right. And if it didn't work, you can try negative 64 and 56 and then negative 56 and so on, right? So that's what you can do. The other one, which is what I'm going to do with you now, is to solve for x, to find the value of x here, okay? Try to find the value of x, all right? So we're going to first of all, we're going to start with this. So 0.75, we're gonna use distributive property. So 0.75 times x, and then 0.75 times 20, and then we have 2 plus 0.5 times x and 0.5 times 2, right? So 0.75 times x will be 0.75 x. 0.75 times 20, that would be 15. 2 plus 0.5 times x will be 2.5x, and 0.5 times 2, that will be 1. So we're going to have negative 1. The reason why we have negative, because positive times negative, that will be negative, right? Well, let's try to combine. Let's bring like a 0.5 to the left here, so we can bring like 0.5 to the left, right? And we can move 15 to the right here, right? So it's going to be 0.75 x, right, minus 0.5 x equals, well, 2, 2 minus 1, wait, well, we got like 2 minus 1, that would be 1, right? And 15, we're going to move it to the right. That would be minus 15. That would be like minus 15 here. Now, 0.75x minus 0.5x, that would be 0.25x. And 1 minus 15, that would be negative 14, right? We need to cancel, get rid of the 0.25, so we're going to divide by 0.25 in both sides. We're going to have x equals, negative 14 over 0.25, that would be negative 56. So the answer is going to be J, which is negative 56. For this question, the graph of a quadratic function is shown in the grid. Which equation best represents the axis of symmetry? Right. Now, axis of symmetry, or the line of symmetry, right, is the line that divides the figure or any graph into two halves that are the mirrors images of each other, right? So the axis of symmetry or the equation of axis of symmetry will cut the graph into two parts as a mirror, right? And we can see if I have this line right here, if I have this line right here, right? This graph, right, this line. The equation of this line, by the way, the equation of any vertical line is x equals something. Is x equals something. We know it the line passed through number through 2, like x equals 2 right here, right? So x equals 2 will be our equation, right? Our the equation of the line of symmetry, and that's the line that's cut the graph into two parts, right? As you can see, as a mirror, right? And the answer will be G, which is x equals 2, right? I got a question for you. What is a vertex in this graph here, right? Remember the last example, we had a vertex as the lowest point. Now we have a parabola goes down. If I ask you about the vertex, what is the vertex for this one, right? Now the vertex is going to be the highest point right here. That's where the graph changed the direction, go all the way down. So the vertex is going to be 2 and 6. That's the vertex. If they ask about the vertex, that's going to be the point of the vertex, right? But in this question, they ask us about axis of symmetry, which is a line of symmetry. That's the line that cut the graph into two parts.